As we entered the year 1960, our church history stated the following: "For the coming year, let us follow the admonition of the Apostle Paul. Whatsoever ye do, do it heartily, as to the Lord, and not to men." Colossians 3:23. In March 1960, we began construction on the new education annex, and on September 25, 1960, 8 new classrooms were filled on the first floor with bright-eyed children with smiling faces. The second floor remained unfinished. Our cost was $24,000, and we paid $19,744 up front. Our growing children's ministry was in great need of this space. As was our custom over the years, our vacation Bible school was held for 10 days, and this year was no exception. In 1960, we enrolled a record 189 children, with an average attendance of 157. 1960 also brought the 10th year Reverend Horace Ricks had been at Princeton Baptist Church. During his 10 years, our church budget had grown from $4,475 to $17,970. As the church grew, 3 choirs were actively used in worship: an adult choir, a youth choir, and a brotherhood choir. Our missions organizations were growing, and in 1961, the first GA coronation was held. 18 girls participated in the service, with Diane Woodward being crowned as the first queen. With such an active church family, our buildings were in need of repairs and updates, so in 1963, air conditioning was added to the Sunday school annex, storm windows were installed in the parsonage, and the baptistry was repaired and painted. Additional communion sets were given to the church, and leather hymnals were provided for the pulpit and organist. These improvements continued into 1964, with the telephone being added to the pastor's study and the steeple being lighted for the first time. Princeton Baptist Church was now 75 years old, with a membership of 484 souls. In 1965, the church held its second GA coronation, with Carolyn Lee being crowned as the church's second queen. The first white Bible ceremony was also held for a bride-elect, which was effectively done with appropriate suggestions for the establishment of a Christian home by the bride-to-be and her prospective groom. In the spring of 1965, the sanctuary auditorium was air-conditioned, and the church also voted to complete the second floor of the education annex. The second floor was completed with a kitchen, a fellowship hall area, and 1 classroom. Mission activities were growing in the church, with the results being seen through our vacation Bible schools, revivals, and missions organizations. As a result of our missions revival held in October of 1965, Princeton Baptist Church began sponsoring a radio broadcast in North Dakota. Soon afterwards, a church library was started for the purpose of outreach and education within the community as well as within the church. Then the church chose Mrs. Lolita Powell to visit the Orient as a representative from our association. Mrs. Powell visited several areas in the Orient and reported back to the churches in our association as to the work that our missionaries were doing overseas. The first fellowship supper was held in our new fellowship hall in September of 1966. These suppers were a time of fellowship, with members gathering for food, fun, and laughter, as the talents from numerous members was shown through skits, songs, and comedy for all ages. 1968 saw Princeton Baptist Church with active youth who were also willing to serve. A Youth Week was held March 10th through the 17th, where 57 positions of service in the church were filled by the youth. Another decade of growth. 10-day vacation Bible schools, 2 revivals per year which lasted 5 or more days, continuous giving with growing budgets, missions activities going forward in the community, the nation, and the world, God's people doing God's work and loving each other.